behold the voice of God.
For those of you who don't know me officially, my name is Amanda Waller.
And I am Aaron Moss, your host of Task Force X.
What, we some kind of suicide squad?
Well, yeah, that and
Checkmate.
Task Force X is a podcast that tells the stories of John Ostrander's Suicide Squad and Paul Kupperberg's Checkmate from the late 80s, early 90s.
I want to build a team of some bad people who can do some good.
And that's what Suicide Squad is. While Checkmate is a team of good people doing some good. My mission here is to chronicle each and every title in all the books that Suicide Squad and Checkmate appeared in during that era.
We're the U.S. government. You're going to start a blog and expose us?
Well, a blog and a headcast, Amanda.
Those scumbags are trying to screw me.
Not at all, Amanda. Just trying to help everyone else discover the joy of the Suicide Squad and Checkmate. Anywho, hope you guys have as much fun with these comics as I did when I first read them, so many years ago.
Mother...
That's enough of that, Amanda. Let's go and start the show.
I didn't believe the stories.
Nobody does. Remember, I'm watching. I see everything.
And here we are back with episode 30 of Task Force X. After having a double month of Deadshot, looking at the Deadshot miniseries for the last couple of months, this month we're going to get a double load of Checkmate. That's right, this month we're going to look at issues 7 and 8 of Checkmate. So let's go and get started with it. First up, we have Checkmate number 7. This was cover dated October of 1988. The on-sale date was June the 14th of 1988, and the cover price was still $1.25. The writer on this was still Paul Kupperberg, the penciler Steve Irwin, the inker Al Vey, letterer was Jasper Saudino, the colorist was Nancy Houlihan, and the editor was Jonathan Peterson. The cover of this was by Gil Kane. The title of this story is Arabian Nights. The synopsis of this story, which once again I pulled from Mike's Amazing World of Comics. Checkmate has tracked a ring of international arms smugglers to the rogue nation of Karak. They covertly send 3 knights in the country to meet with local rebel groups. They also kidnap a Karakian minister who reveals that the supply of arms has been consolidated in a central location due to Checkmate's previous operations, as seen over the last few issues. When the time is right, the order is given, and the rebel groups begin a campaign of chaos throughout the capital city of Al-Kuwait. Checkmate's knights then enter the compound where the weapons are stored and plant explosives. An assassin who was taken with Checkmate on 2 other occasions awaits them. He wounds Winston O'Donnell just as he activates the bomb's timer. A female knight named Beth then kills the assassin. Beth is forced to leave Winston behind to die in the explosion, which destroys the weapons. By the following morning, the Karakian troops have restored order. The rebel uprising fails to unseat President Marlowe. However, Checkmate's primary mission to destroy the weapons was successful, though costing the life of one of their own. Now, we've done that. Let's go ahead and move on to my thoughts on this issue. We start out, as usual, with the cover. We've got the Checkmate logo at the top. The title says, Welcome to Karak. Below that, we see a female knight exchanging fire with somebody. A couple guys are dodging out of the way. We can tell we're in a Middle Eastern country of somewhere. The writing on the sign back here, it looks like your standard Middle Eastern market. You got pots and plates and fruit and stuff and bread, it looks like. Or maybe that's fruit, I'm not sure. But it's a nice cover. Again, it's very Gil Kane. Gil Kane has a distinctive style, and you can see it on the people in here, on these Karakians as they're diving out of the way. Again, very nice cover. Move to the actual issue itself. Again, as we start out, we've got the standard, the artwork that we've come to expect for this title. It's good artwork. It's kind of a realistic style, if you will. We start out with some vendor selling oranges, trying to sell a lady some oranges. He tells her, we pretend to do business, and he passes on a message to her. And suddenly he stops, and some guards try to arrest the lady. They both run, and she ditches the cloak she's wearing, or robe, whatever you want to call it. It looked like a cloak. The next page, we have her diving over a table, and we have a beautiful shot of a Checkmate female knight diving over the table. How do you know it's a female knight, Brotherhead, you may be asking? Well, again, the knight suits are not designed to hide the wearer's gender. But again, this is a beautiful page. This could take off the wording on this, the text box and all that. This could be a beautiful poster for this series. We got some guards down here in the bottom portion of the panel firing at her, hitting some pots on the table. She's diving over it. She's doing her back sprawled out, and it's very athletic, very dynamic picture here. I love this picture. And again, I love the way these knights' uniforms look. It's a beautiful design, as I've talked about before. The next page, we see her getting away, firing back at him. Kind of the cover. We don't have the Krakens on either side diving out of the way, but this is basically the cover. We got the female knight returning fire back at other people. She dives through a window, and as they bust in to find her, they can't locate her anywhere. And again, I like this. Here on page 4, we get her on top of the building, and she's saying that she's safe for the moment. Despite the fact that a dozen people saw me make the climb, the Krakens have little love for the government troops and aren't about to cooperate. So again, she lets us know that the Krak people are on her side, and that's why a woman in black and yellow armor was able to get away with no one seeing her, because they saw her, but no one's admitting to it. So she reports back to base. They told her to lay low. Most Checkmate stories only revolve around one night, usually. This one here, as these two guys are talking, we find out that this is such a dangerous mission that they're going to need more than one night to pull it off. We get Winston, one of the knights, sitting there talking to Jack. And Jack's one that's saying, and he's referring back to Checkmates 4 through 6, where they talked about the arms smuggling ring that they've been working on. So everything we've been reading up till now all leads up to this issue here. So we have Jack sitting here talking to the Winston, one of the knights, and he's saying that the third night they'll meet in a little bit, and we find out, if you're not aware, that Winston's one of the knights that's been through these earlier stories, because he tells him since he's been in it from the beginning, he wanted to bring him in on this whole deal, let him be a part of the finish off of it, if you will. And then we cut to the third night, who's meeting out in the desert with, I believe his name's Ash. I believe that's how you pronounce it. The guy from the black guy from the last issue that was actually working undercover for the CIA. And again, so he's sitting here in a tent talking to Ash. Ash is complaining that due to Checkmate interfering, they couldn't stop it last issue. Suddenly he's gotten orders to lay back and follow the knight's lead. And I like these. He's like, I don't even know who you are or where you're from. You won't even show your damn face. And we have the knight sitting there. He's in his knight gear except for his helmet sitting next to him. And he's got a towel or something, a blanket or some white thing wrapped around his face, which is his eyes showing, so we can't see who he is. So even out in the middle of nowhere, working with allies, the knights are protecting their identity. I love that little aspect that Paul's got there. And we find out that the Checkmate's job is to put the gun runners out of business. And as he says here, my mission profile doesn't include toppling the dictatorship, but my superior assured me that no one would be terribly upset if President Marlowe's government fell in the process. So he's trying to get Ash here to get him to team up with the local terrorists, freedom fighters, whatever you want to call them, to work together towards, well, maybe not the same goal, goals that are close enough that are within spitting distance. And then we cut to the Krakian Palace, or the Royal Palace of Krak in Al Kuwait. And we get President Marlowe talking with one of his prime ministers, looks like. And to me, President Marlowe looks a little bit like maybe the brother or the cousin of Miles Mayhem from Mask. He's got a similar look to me anyways. But the minister leaves to get things underway, and he meets up with the assassin, I believe he was, from an issue or two ago, that I said reminds me of Cobra Commander back in G.I. Joe number 55. Then on page 8, we see we're at the University of Iraq in El Kuwait, and we see this dark-haired lady talking with a looks like a professor or somebody, and they're talking about how the dictatorship needs the university to produce its engineers, scientists, and technicians, but President Marlowe knows that the intellectuals is the one that forms the dissent. So one out of every 5 students is a spy. And the next page or two is more of the same, just the knights checking in with their informants in the area. And then I like on page 10 and 11, one of the guys who's a minister of, what's he called? The Minister of Transportation. He's lounging in a sauna, and he's sitting there, he's like, well, are you coming in or not? Whichever you choose to decide. Close the door, it's drafty. Are you deaf? I said to. And then the last panel on page 10, we see the minister looking through the haze of the steam, and we see a dark figure standing there. I heard you. And then we see a close-up of his arm with his knife popping out. Chink. And he threatens the minister and tells him he knows that this minister of transportation is hiding illegal arms. And he just punches him, and the character's thoughts tells us that the minister is willing to go to a more secluded surroundings to continue their talk. And by saying he kindly consented to reconvene means that the knight punches him and knocks him out cold. Because the next page we see both men fully dressed in regular clothes, and the minister's slumped over, and the other guy's telling the guys outside that, you know, their old army friends had some too much champagne. And it's not the first time that they've, you know, he's passed out like this. As they leave, the Cobra Commander lookalike is watching them as they leave. And then we get here at the bottom of page 12, we find out apparently this minister guy, I forget his name, he's more than just a minister of transportation. And apparently he's interrogated people and used hot pokers and extreme methods to get information. And then here on, and so you might be thinking, you know, well, if this is the Checkmate, the Americans are not doing a very good job. Well, I don't want to say you're not doing a very good job, but that they're willing to go to torture. And we outside where we see the female knight from earlier, who is the same gal talking to the professor guy, who we know from the synopsis, her name's Beth, is talking with Jack and Winston, the knight from earlier. And Beth is saying that she's not sure. Again, she's voicing kind of our concerns that she's not quite sure about this, that torture's not a good way to go about it, that they're supposed to be better. And again, she doesn't really say all that. All she says is, I'm not sure I like the way we're getting it, Jack. I mean, torture. But you can infer from that she doesn't like the idea of torturing a suspect to get information. And Jack tells her that nobody's being tortured, that all they had to do is use the fear of torture, and like most, as he calls them, cowards, when you threaten with hot poker, since they are so willing to use it themselves, they're more than willing to believe that someone will be using it on them. And here at the middle of page 13, just to date this book, the confession that they have from this guy. He admits that where the stolen arms are being held. Apparently, as I said there in the synopsis, they converged it all in one place due to the activities over the last couple issues of Checkmate. But he's got all this information on a cassette tape. Which every kid today, if they're reading, they're just like, what the heck? He holding his hand. What the heck? So it kind of dates this book in the late 80s very nicely, I think. And then, as I talked about in the synopsis, the next couple pages details the rebel groups beginning their campaign of chaos throughout the capital city. We see all that going on. And not much more to say until we get to page 18. We see all three knights together in a foxhole, which is something you don't see very often, three knights together like this. Usually, like as I said earlier, it's usually one knight per mission. So it's really nice seeing the three knights teaming up and working together on this. And as they're going through, again, the artwork in this is standard for Checkmate, really nice. I enjoy, like I've said before, I enjoy the artwork throughout this book. And next thing I want to comment here is on page 20. We see one of the knights. I'm looking at it again to see if they tell us which one it is. Setting the explosive. As he sets that, one of the other knights, we can't really tell from this angle which one it is, gets approached behind by the Cobra Commander lookalike guy, the assassin. And I like this. He comes up on her. He's like, "Don't move, my friend. Not even a twitch. This old fortress is honeycombed with secret passageways. But you wouldn't know about that, of course. I've been waiting for this moment since we first met in Venice. Now turn around slowly." And the one he's captured is Beth, the female knight. And as I said, these suits don't hide your body type. So you can tell it's a female. She turns around. And like I said before, most people only see one knight at a time. So a lot of people assume that the Checkmate knights are a superhero. And this is their costume. So they assume that this guy's assuming that this one he's captured here is the same one he met in Venice, until Beth turns around and he sees that, she's a female. She's got a female figure. And I like this. He's like, "A woman? But how?" And she's like, "The way I understand, it's all got to do with chromosomes. I thought there might be more than one, but now there'll be one less." And they start fighting. A little fight here. And again, this can only be done in a comic books. As they're fighting along, she's kicking him and he's fighting back. He's grabbing his gun. She's disarming him. He's getting it again. As they're fighting, they're doing the usual talking as they go along. The Cobra Commander lookalike guy is saying that the Checkmate people have been making him look bad to his employers. He's supposed to be in control of the situations. And as they're fighting, they roll out into like a veranda or a balcony. And this knight down here that's setting the explosives is the one that's the assassin here, Cobra Commander guy, met in Venice. So he sees them fighting. He recognizes his old sparring partner, as he says here. And like as he looks over the balcony that they're fighting on, he's like, "What? Another one? It won't work. Do you understand? It won't work." And so he shoots the guard a couple of times and hits the knight in the back and knocks him to the ground. Finally, Beth subdues him, makes him drop his gun. And I like this here on the bottom of the page. What is this page? 22. As Beth and the assassin are fighting, he's sitting there listening. He says that her comm's open. You can hear him talking or fighting, but all you can hear is her rattled breathing. And he's like, "I must be imagining the ticking. With electronics, bombs don't tick anymore. They don't make any sound until the big one." And so he radios out and lets his partner outside know that the clock's running. They need to make withdrawal. As they continue to fight, the Cobra Commander guy knocks Beth over the edge. She grabs the side and then throws her legs up and grabs him around the neck with her legs and pulls him off and throws him down, and it kills him. And then she tells Knight 3, that's the one on the ground that's bleeding to death, that she's going to come for him to help out. And he's like, "No, there's less than 4 minutes. We won't make it if you try dragging me along. Get, girl, and tell someone to supply for me that their bulletproof isn't worth a damn." Because again, they got this armor, and in theory it's supposed to be bulletproof, But seeing how Night 3, I believe this is laying in a pool of his own blood. Yeah, he's Night 3. He's laying in his pool of his own blood. As he says, their bulletproof armor isn't worth what they thought it was. And Night 1 and Night 2 meets up outside as the building explodes, and Beth tells them that Night 3 died during their mission. And again, here on page 24, the left-hand side panel, it's a very nice explosion of the palace exploding. Oh, it's the palace with this building exploding, going up in flames. And in the last panel, we have our wrap-up where we get, what's going on, the still sporadic fighting throughout the cities. Marlowe troops taking control of things, other things in matters in hand by morning. And they're talking to Harry Stein. He's like, too bad. It would have been nice if we could have knocked down Marlowe in the process. And we find out that it did cost a knight and some civilians. And it ends with Beth telling them that, yes, sir, it's all in the line of duty. And we end with the next Blackthorn versus Amanda Waller and the Knights of Checkmate. So, yeah, I didn't have a lot to say about this issue. It was a good issue. I'm not a real big fan of comics taking place in other parts of the world because I'm a stupid American, probably. But, and like I say, so Checkmate doesn't seem like to be my bag of tea, if you will, or whatever. That's probably the wrong phrase. But overall, I'm enjoying the story, the artwork. So even though I'm not that big on the international espionage type stuff, I'm enjoying Checkmate. And like I say, I started picking it up somewhere around this time, issue-wise. So it was good enough for me to keep picking up the book. So, but that's issue 7. Again, overall, I enjoyed the story. The artwork is great as always. I definitely recommend you guys check it out if you haven't done so. We're going to go take a quick commercial break. I say commercial break. I'm going to play some podcast promos. And we'll be right back with Checkmate number 8.
Now we're gonna have a break. Message time we're gonna take.
Hey folks, this is Jared Albrick, aka the Yard Sale Artist, and semi-regular co-host of the Longbox Crusade podcast with Pat Sampson. Pat came to me recently with a fantastic idea on how we might get the podcast community involved in taking some action to do some good. He called this idea Comics for Courage. Comics for Courage is a concept that came to Pat after I told him the fantastic true story of when I was stationed in Iraq during my military service. While there, I received a huge care package of comic books from the awesome folks over at Wizard and Toy Fair magazines. We had so many comics, we didn't know what to do with them all. Seriously, it was over 100 pounds of comics. So me and a couple of buddies took the bounty of comics we had down to the Give and Take library we'd set up in our headquarters building. And you know what? Within 24 hours, all the comics were gone. The bottom line here is that throughout history, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, one thing remains a constant: soldiers love comics. It's quick, easy, fun reading that gives a soldier a taste of home and lets them escape into an amazing world of comics, even if it's just for a few minutes. So here's the best part of Comics for Courage. Pat and I aren't asking you to donate 1 cent of your money to Comics for Courage. What we would love is for you to donate your excess comics. You know, those ones that are just kind of laying around. Just drop them into a box or a big envelope and mail them over to supportourtroops.org. Their mailing address is Support Our Troops, 13617 North Florida Avenue, Tampa, Florida 33613. Now, they will make sure those comics get distributed to random soldier care packages, and as a person who's been on the receiving end of this, I can tell you it will mean a lot. And if you'd rather donate money than give up a single comic book, trust me, we understand about that. You can donate through their website as well. Again, that's supportourtroops.org. Just remember 2 things, all right? 2 things. 1. Make sure the comics have good, clean content. No nudity or adults-only comics, please. Those are the rules for any military member receiving goods downrange. Okay, and number 2, this is the fun one. Please take a picture of you with your donation stack and post it on Twitter or Facebook at Longbox Crusade, or email it to contact@longboxcrusade.com. We'd love to give you an on-air shout-out and post your pic on the longboxcrusade.com website. In summary, Pat and I over at Longbox Crusade Podcast would greatly appreciate you taking this small action to make a difference in the life of someone who is far from home defending our freedoms. Thank you for supporting the Comics for Courage initiative. That website again is supportourtroops.org. Please check it out. Throw them some comics. Make some soldiers happy. We appreciate it. Thanks again.
Justice League International, Bwahaha Podcast, a new monthly show chronicling the adventures of the JLI era by Keith Giffen and J.M. DeMatteis. We'll be going issue by issue in release order, tackling the core Justice League title, Justice League Europe, and the quarterly book. Along the way, we'll take time out for special episodes covering various spin-offs, cartoon appearances, the infamous TV pilot, and much more. So join me in an ever-changing roster of guest hosts as we celebrate your favorite JLI members, such as
Martian Manhunter,
Batman,
Dr. Fate,
Black Canary,
Fire,
Ice,
Maxwell Lord,
Oberon,
Captain Marvel,
Rocket Red,
Captain Atom,
Mr. Miracle,
Guy Gardner,
Booster Gold,
Blue Beetle,
Nort,
and many, many more. Justice League International, Bwahaha Podcast, coming March 2016 as part of the Fire and Water Podcast Network. Want to make something of it?
Now we go back to the fun. Message time is over and done.
Now, let's move on to Checkmate number 8. The cover date was November of 1988. The on-sale date was July the 12th of 1988. The cover price was $125. This issue was edited by Jonathan Peterson. The title of this was A Thorn in Her Side. Written by Paul Kupperberg, penciled by Steve Irwin, ink by Al Vey, the letter was Albert Tobias de Guzman, the colorist Juliana Freder, and the cover was once again Gil Kane. Now for my synopsis. From the 10,000-foot level, as the irredeemable Shags want to say, this story is Blackthorn dealing with Checkmate and Amanda Waller. Amanda Waller lets Harry Stein know that Blackthorn running around knowing about Checkmate is a danger to the organization and that he needs to deal with her. Harry is less than happy with the situation and walks out. While Checkmate watches for Thorn, Bullock meets up with her at a Bogart movie marathon and warns her of the danger. He also lets her know that he has a plan.
I have a plan. You've got a plan. I have part of a plan.
Later on, a knight breaks into Thorn's room, and after a little sexy battle, the knight tells her that Stein is trying to help her survive Waller's orders. Thorn finally agrees to meet with Stein at a Chinese restaurant, a meeting which is interrupted by the Wall herself. After another little fight, this time between Thorn and Reed versus some of Waller's goons, Thorn gives Waller a printout, proving that the Suicide Squad was involved with sending some goons to kill the American superhero Hawk in Nicaragua, as seen in the Suicide Squad Doom Patrol crossover, which I discovered with Mike Garvey back in episode 21. Amanda agrees to let her go, reluctantly.
Those scumbags are trying to screw me.
The issue ends with Harry visiting Bullock, letting him know that Amanda Thorne is off Waller's radar due to having some incriminating evidence. He leaves telling Bullock that if he ever compromises security again, he's going to kick Bullock's butt. And now for my thoughts on this issue. As normal, we'll start off the cover. The cover, we see Amanda Waller in the background. She's holding a gun pointed towards us, almost. Large and in charge. In front of her, a lot smaller in the foreground, we see a nice view of Blackthorn. Amanda saying, "Blackthorn, you can kiss it goodbye." This is it's a good cover. You can tell it's a Gil Kane cover just by the way it's done. But again, it's nicely done. Amanda Waller's in the background looking as mean as usual. Blackthorn's up in the foreground. looking over her shoulder, surprised. Again, it's not a realistic looking cover as far as the distance between the two. But again, it gets the meaning across that, Waller's in charge. She's looming over everything. And Thorne is just a small piece of the puzzle. I like it. It's a good cover. It's very memorable. Moving on to the story itself. We start out, as I said, Harry Stein debriefing, we can tell it's Bullock and some woman, about Blackthorn. Behind him we have a monitor set up with 9 video monitors on it. The top monitor we see a picture of Blackthorn jumping over some police. Next one over we see her jumping on a rooftop. And the third one over we see her taking out some, looks like gang members. The next row we have Blackthorn, looks like in civilian identity, taking out, looks like 4 men. Don't know if they're guards or who they are offhand. Then we see a close-up of Blackthorn with her face. It's Blackthorn, identity unknown. Next to that we have what looks like maybe a who's who profile of Blackthorn. It's kind of behind Stein, so we can't really make it out. All we see is Thorne standing there, and to the right we see looks like some dialogue of some sort. Kind of like what you see in a Who's Who magazine. Below that we see a gun with the ammunition on a grid pattern background. Then we see her fingerprints. It says no match. And in the bottom right corner we can barely make out Blackthorn and Adrian Chase, aka the Vigilante. It looks like they're having a discussion. I like this scene, or this panel, this page, whatever it's called. I like this page. It lays out, Harry Stein giving us some information dump. That, they don't know who she is, where she's been. And again, Harry wouldn't bother with it. But unfortunately, like it or not, they're going to have to go after her. And again, I like the way these, like I said, this monitor system set up here. We see some of her, activities, some video footage of her. I just like the way it's laid out. In the next page, we get Bullock and the gal that was there, which is named Kayla, talking about Blackthorn, how, she's a great, I don't want to say asset, but she's got a lot of skills. As Bullock says here, dame's hell on wheels and leather, Kyla. I've seen her go against the best and walk away, not even breathing hard. As they're talking, Kayla's like, but if Miss Waller's ordered Blackthorn eliminated, and from the doorway we get Amanda Waller come prancing in saying, then she damn well expects that order to be carried out. Bullock's like, uh-oh, you better, Bullock. Blackthorn's a threat to Checkmate security. She's been in here and out under her own steam. And I don't see anybody offering any assurances that she won't use what she knows against us someday. And again, Harry Stein, as I've talked about previously, both him and Blackthorn are a holdover from the old Vigilante series that Paul Kupperberg ended right before he started this series. So again, he knows her from the Checkmate, or from the Vigilante days, so he kind of feels he knows her. And I like the fact that he's kind of sticking up for her. He's telling her, well, I know Thorne. If she was going to turn on us, it would have happened by now. Amanda's like, let me put it this way, Stein. In the asinine vernacular of your organizational chart, I am the queen of this hill. And the queen wants the head on a pike. And then Bullock, he jumps up and he's like, so what are we supposed to do, murder her? Amanda turns on. She's like, in case you've forgotten, murder is a big part of what we do here. Learn to take the heat, you slob, or get the hell out of my kitchen. Blackthorn's a dead woman, Stein. All you gotta do is bring me the body. As she slams the door. Again, it's very Amanda Waller. She's in charge. I said she thinks she's in charge, but she's in charge. She doesn't take flack from anybody. And she tells him, this is the way it's gonna be or else. And she's like kind of I'd say a bull in a china shop, but I try not to use that phrase because Mythbusters has proven that's not really true. But again, that's another story entirely. Again, I love, as I've commented here and other times, I really love Amanda Waller, and this is part of what I love about her, the fact that she comes in and she just tells them this is the way it's going to be, this is what you're going to do, make it so. And then Bullock, again, if you're familiar with Bullock from the Batman comics or from Fox's Gotham TV series, you know that he's pretty much a stand-up guy. I mean, he's had a past, but at this point, he's a stand-up guy. He believes in his friends. And so, again, he tells them, you know what? I'm not going to stand for this. I'm out of here. You're not going to make me kill, someone I consider a friend. And then here on the next page, again, I hate these pages aren't numbered. I think it's page 4. We cut to Manhattan's Lower East Side, and we're getting Thorne's inner monologue. And again, like she's breaking up this, looks like she's in a bar or a gun store or something. Not quite sure what the place is, because there's a counter, and there's half a dozen guys she's fighting. Like one of the guys behind this counter, he's got a shotgun. He's like, "Grab her, you damn stiffs! She's just one dame." And Thorne's like, we chicks hate being called dames. It makes us downright ornery. I'm gonna make you dead, babe. And he's like, where have I heard that before? She shoots him in the neck with a knockout gun, or trank dart, she calls it. And again, she just proceeds to take these guys out. I love Blackthorn, how bad she is. Again, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys, plus another with a shotgun that she takes out. Plus, look, there's one where he's laying there on the counter, his face laying in a full of liquid. I just love how bad ass that Blackthorn is. She's a very, especially for a late 80s. I mean, she's a very go-getter. She's very much a powerful character in charge of her own destiny. And then we get to the part where I talked about in the synopsis, where Bullock meets her at a Bogart festival. Looks like the movie they're watching is Casablanca. And she sits down next to him while he's sitting there with a big tub of popcorn, a small soda. Looks like a small soda. She sits down next to the chair to him, and I like this. Next to her, or next to Bullock, is a pile of food, which I'm assuming is his. And she kind of looks like she dumps it on the ground as she sits down, pulls a gun on him, and sticks it to his ribs. And he's just like, "Yeah, see, I see it. Now pipe down, will you? This is the best part. Jeez, we put that gun away." I mean, Bullock doesn't even flinch. She pulls a gun and sticks it to his ribs while he's trying to watch Casablanca. He's just like, "We be quiet, put that stupid thing away." And so Bullock lets her know what's going on, who's against her, what she's up against. And I like this last panel on this page. He's like, let me see, she back up a step. She's like, "So what diabolical plan does that ruffled little mind of yours come up with?" And he's like, "You gotta love it, Thorne. It's simple, but eloquent." And as Bullock is saying that, on the screen, Casablanca is ending, and we got Bogart saying,
"Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship."
I just love how the juxtaposition between Bullock and Thorne sitting there talking in the darkened theater, hatching a plan to save Thorne from Waller. Basically, the beginning of a beautiful friendship. While on the movie screen we have Bogart telling Louis, basically the same thing. This is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. I just love the way this plays out. I mean, you think maybe that just Kupperberg's a Casablanca fan, or maybe Steve Irwin is. But then you see it ties into the actual plot of the story. How these two, well, I mentioned that they're friends, or they're not really friends, but they're associates. They've worked together. They've got common friends. And how they're teaming up to basically save, as I said, save Blackthorn from Amanda Waller doing what Amanda Waller does. And then, like I said, we have the night breaking into our apartments. And here on a couple pages later, we have the fight I talked about, and I called it a sexy, sexy fight. I just said one sexy, it's a sexy fight. We get the night he's looking through her apartment. He thinks she's sleeping. And like it's here on one page, he's standing there watching her sleep, in quotes. She's all covered with blankets. And he's standing there watching her, his hands on his hips. A classic male superhero pose. Behind him in the shadows, we see someone holding a gun. And She shoots him, and her dart bounces off his armor, and his gun drops out. And then Blackthorn jumps out at him, and again, she was sleeping apparently because she's in her little white nightie. And so they're roughing around. Her panty slides down, her shows her butt a little bit. Her top's about ready to come down. So again, I mean, Blackthorn, as again, godfather of the show, the irredeemable Shag would say, she is very hot, especially, in this little white lingerie outfit as she's fighting this knight. And even though this knight's in armor and coming to fight, need be, I guess he wasn't coming to fight, we'll find out in a minute, but this knight shows up decked out in armor, and she was in bed. She's in her nightie. She still is able to get the drop on him, and she gets on top of him, and she's got her hands around his throat, and she's all I ever want to do is be left alone. But you bastards just won't let it go, will you? So if they should be one of you idiots back in a box show I mean business, then that's just the way it's got to be. And we can almost see, again, Steve Irwin, or maybe it's the inker, the colorist, I don't know. The way, I'm willing to bet it's Steve Irwin. We get a close-up of the knight's eye through his visor slot, and you can almost see the fear in his eyes as, Blackthorn in her nighties, or, her cleavage about ready to pop out of her little nightie, hands around his neck, he's about ready to rip his helmet off with his head attached. But he'll reach for his gun, and he gets into her side. But again, as I said, if it wasn't for such drastic measures, fighting for her life, this could be nothing. I'm watching it, so this is a very sexy fight. Again, I would love to see this play out in like a movie or something. It'd be an interesting little fight. But again, I am a male chauvinist pig, so what do I know? Moving on. So the knight gets her off, and he tells her that, I'm not here to kill you. That I'm here to, offer you a deal so you don't get killed. He's like, well, after this, I'll be damned if I figure out why you're worth saving. And I can answer that for you. And I believe this is Reed in the costume. And I can answer that for you because she just kicked your butt in just her underwear, her nightgown, her night dressing, whatever y'all call it. Lingerie. That's the word I'm looking for. So if she, she can take down a trained knight in her, just her underwear, her night clothes, I mean, that tells how bad she is. And then we get a scene of Amanda Waller looking through some files. She comes across an encrypted one. It's upsetting her because, again, she's Amanda Waller. Nothing should be hidden from her. And she finds out that it's Harry Stein's file. So then Harry's got blocked off. And I like this here on this page where she's talking with, what's the guy's name? Atkinson. She's trying to get him to break the file for her. And he tells her that it's locked. It's a private file. And the prefix indicates Mr. Stein. That's on two-thirds of the page. The other third is we see Blackthorn breaking into Checkmate's headquarters. And I like how they've got these two panels separated. These two sections separated. Blackthorn breaking in, it's got a red border around it, while the rest of the story is just the regular black and white panels, borders. It's only on this one page. It's interesting, but I like the way it looks. And then Amanda Waller saying that, Matt Stein's trying to hide something about Blackthorn. Damn his conscience. I wonder what he's planning. Well, I've got plans of my own. I'll teach that sneaky son of a bitch not to mess with me. So again, Amanda Waller's, I love the way she's portrayed in this book. She's a very Amanda Waller. She's in charge, and when she's not in charge, she's upset because, well, she's supposed to be in charge. And I know I've said it before, and I'll say it again. God, I love how Amanda's drawn in this book. I know this isn't her normal hangout she's over in Suicide Squad, but even here in Checkmate, this time frame, I love this version of Amanda. God. Anyway, moving on, we go to the diner. What is this, Mott Street in New York's Chinatown, where we have Stein meeting up with Blackthorn. And I like this, and they're talking, and he's basically telling her that Amanda's not going to go away until she's dead. So how about instead of them doing it, you let me do it? And Blackthorn's got a look on her face. She's like, say what? I can almost hear Arnold from Different Strokes.
What you talking about,
And as Stein's laying out his plan, he's like, we report you dead. They'll lay off for a few, you lay low for a few months. Sooner you come back with a different name, and we'll put you, in the system with an artificial background, official sanction, bring you back to life. She's like, you're kidding, right? You know I don't work well with rules. And she's like, and Stein's all, you think we do? So, what do you say, Thorn? About this time, Amanda comes busting in the place with 4 goons with her, all wearing glasses. At first, I thought these were maybe some a Suicide Squad personnel undercover, but I don't think so. I think these are just maybe some Checkmate goons or some other questionable individuals. But I love here at the bottom of this page. Again, these pages aren't numbered, so it's hard to say. But it's I think it's page 17 or so. Amanda standing there as big as life, shorter than everyone else around her, and they're just very 80s. She's got a long green trench coat on, black slacks, a green shirt, and beside her, on either side of her, she's got a white guy and a black guy, both in glasses, both with 80s jackets on, both with the hands in their jacket like they're ready to pull a gun. 2 guys behind them in the door. Looks like maybe a gallant guy. I just love the way so Stein's saying, what do you say, Thorn? And Amanda walks in, she's like, I'd say the jig is up. I love Amanda Waller. She just comes storming into this place, and she just, she tells him, I know you're messing around, Stein. So she put her people on his people, tapping the safe house phone. And then Thorn does some of her impressive moves and tries to leap out. And again, how bad Amanda Waller is as Thorn leaps over her. Waller tilts back, almost kind of like a Matrix thing before the Matrix, the way she's leaning back. And she's able to grab Thorn's arm as she tries to get away. And Waller's all, hold it, child, you ain't going anywhere. And Thorn's like, I wouldn't do that if I were you, chunks. And Amanda Waller's like, don't mistake my bulk for fat. And why I like that line, it is a line I've seen several times over in Daredevil, the Kingpin using that. Because again, the Kingpin's a large man, and again, people mistake his bulk for fat. So again, while it is a line I have seen several times before this over in Daredevil with the Kingpin, I still like it. And it's still fitting, because again, I've commented on before on Waller being overweight, fat. But again, it's not like she's much like the Kingpin. She's not just fat, she's also got some muscle under there. So, and I like how Blackthorn slips out of her jacket. Hey, if you like my coat so much, keep it. Grab her, you idiot, stop her. In fact, I'm going to put a copy of this page on the website, because I really like the way this page is. Like I say, Amanda Waller doing the whole Matrix thing, and as she's leaning back, she's grabbing Blackthorn's arm. Blackthorn getting away. I just like the way this page is laid out. It's very, very comical, but it's also very action oriented. It's a great page. And as she gets away, as she gets out to the alley, one of the knights are standing there waiting for her. And there's also a handful of goons. And as the goons start to try to take Blackthorn away, the knight punches her. Because again, if they were going to take her to custody, he would be fine. But he says, what are you going to do with her now? And one of these bald-headed guys in a wife-beater shirt. I guess it's not a wife-beater. It's some sort of, I guess it's a vest with nothing else. Because as far as shirt, it's very, very 80s looking, guys, I'm telling you. He's like, just what the law orders, knight. We take her someplace nice and private and pop. See you later, friend. And the Knight's like, no. Huh? No, Thorn, go! So he starts beating on the goons himself and to help Thorn get away. And again, after a page or two here of fight, or Fighty McFighterstein, as I believe Michael Bailey says, they're making short work of all these goons. And as they're finishing off the last goon, Waller comes out and says, Blackthorn, stop immediately. And Blackthorn and the Knight are standing over the goons laying on the ground, and the Knight's like, those are some bad moves you got, Thorn. Pretty slick yourself. And that get up makes your butt look great. And Amanda's like, she pulls her gun out. She's like, that's it. That's God it. If I have to do this myself, I will. And Blackthorn's all, chunks, before you do anything, you might want to take a peek at this. And she hands over some papers. Again, I just love the dialogue that's written in this book. I mean, Paul Kupperberg did in my opinion, does a fantastic job with the writing on this. The dialogue between the characters, the interplay between all the good guys and the good guys and the bad guys and the good guys and whoever else they are. I just love the way they talk. And then here at the bottom of page 21, 22, Blackthorn gives Stein a paper, looks at it, and he hands it over to Waller, and there's like just 3 panels here at the bottom. And the first one, Waller's got her gun on, pointing at us, which is supposed to be at Blackthorn, reading it. The next one's just no gun in sight, just to read the paper. Next one, she's dropping the paper. She's like, where did you get this? And basically, she has proof that a secret government agency, I'm going to read out of the book here. Let me see. A secret government agency sending superheroes into Nicaragua to kill the captured American hero Hawk before he became a political embarrassment. And everyone will be reading it if anything happens to me. My contact will see to it, unless he hears from me at a prearranged time every week. And again, this is referring to the Doom Patrol Suicide Squad special, which I covered back in episode 21, entitled Checkmate 3 and Enter the Doom Patrol, with our friend from down under, Mike Garvey. And then Amanda's like, this is blackmail, Stein. Don't look at me, this is the first time hearing of it too. And Blackthorn's like, personally, I like to think of it as life insurance. I don't want to work for anyone, I just want to be left alone. So again, if you've been following my podcast, you know that not very many people get to one over on Amanda Waller. Again, it's been a while since I've read these, so I don't remember it comes back up. But Waller lets her go because, again, she's got this proof that, again, the Suicide Squad tried to kill Hawk, which, again, we covered, we've talked about, so you guys have heard this. And then we end the issue, as I talked about in the synopsis, at the Sierra Madre Apartments, where basically Stein knows that Bullock was the one that got the information for Thorn. And while he doesn't like the fact that Bullock went behind his back and compromised security to get that information for her, Stein wasn't happy with having to kill Thorn. He was trying to find out anyway, so he's not too terribly opposed. So he's not going to look into it officially too hard, but he knows that Bullock was behind it. And as Stein's talking to him, he's like, if you ever compromise security again, I'll kick your butt. Night, Harv. And as he leaves, Harvey's standing there. He's like, he knows. Son of a gun. That Harry's an okay guy. And he's sitting there eating his cereal, spilling milk all over the floor. Again, this was a great issue. I like Checkmate. Again, I'm covering it on a podcast, so I have to like it. But I'm not a huge fan of a lot of the overseas stuff. But these more personal issues like this one here, I love these more so than the... And again, I know the main series deals with a lot of the overseas, the political stuff. And I enjoy it, but I love these personal little issues like this one here a whole lot better. And again, I do like part of Bullock's character we saw earlier. He likes Casablanca, Bogart, and all that. Behind Harry, as he's standing there talking to Harvey, we see a sign that says Humphrey Bogart and something. I'm not sure what movie this is from. I'm not a huge fan. I don't know all the posters offhand, but it's a Bogart poster behind him. So it shows more of Harvey's character, if you will, more about his personal, who he is. I don't know if this was ever brought up in the Batman comics or if this love of Bogart is just the first time here in Checkmate. But again, this was a great comic. As I said, I complimented the art. I didn't go too much in the art this time, except for things I really enjoyed. But again, I love Paul Kupperberg's writing on this. I think Steve Irwin and Alvey does a great job with the pencils and the inks on it. Juliana Fredder's across all my podcasts, and she's the color. She does a great job. It's just a fantastic book, and I can't recommend it enough. But I guess I've talked about enough for today. Let's go ahead and take a look at suicide notes. We're just going to jump straight in. There's no emails to read. Go over to the Facebook page. Since last month, there were likes and shares and comments from the following people: M. Anthony Gerardo, Silver and Gold Podcast, David Foster, John Jack, Gord Tolton, Tim Wallace, Ryan Daly, Shag Matthews from over at the JLI Bwahaha Podcast, which I'll talk about in just a minute. Speaking of which, the Just League International Bwahaha Podcast, and Jack Dower. Also, I mentioned John Jack earlier. We had a little conversation. I shared a picture of Zod from the current Suicide Squad book, and I made a comment that, this current Squad book, not as good as Ossinger's, but pretty good. And John made a comment, John Jack made a comment that it's a snippet that he's super into. And we talked that neither one of us really cared much for John Romita Jr. art, who's on the book for a little bit. But for the most part, this current Suicide Squad since Rebirth has been pretty good. Good art for the most part. Some good writing on it. And as Gabriel Lee Ramirez also commented on the Facebook, he says they all sucked when compared to the Ostrander run. And as I commented back to him, I agree with him. John Ostrander's run was the bomb. And as I told him, that's why I'm covering it, because, again, I loved Ostrander's run on this book, on the Suicide Squad. I think he did a fantastic and awesome job. And that's about it for the social medias. Nothing much on Twitter. Of course, I don't do a whole lot on Twitter. That's my fault. Nothing much on Google+. Again, I don't do much over there right now. I really need to start getting into some of these social medias and promoting there a little bit more. But that's almost it. I mentioned earlier when I was talking about Facebook, the Just League International, I do want to promote that episode 13 of the Just League International is out. In case you're not aware, Just League International is a friend of the podcast, the Irredeemable Shag, looking at the Just League International book that started at the same time as Suicide Squad. He's looking at it. It's an index show like ours is. It's a month-by-month look. Currently, they're on episode 13, which is issue number 13. And, of course, issue 13 was the crossover with the Suicide Squad. So Shag had a special guest, yours truly, on to talk about the Justice League International versus Suicide Squad crossover. We looked at both books. I had a great time. Definitely go over and check out. Well, you should be listening to the Justice League International Bwahaha podcast anyways. But if you're a fan of this show, definitely check out episode 13, where I show up at the embassy and me and Shag sit back and talk about the Suicide Squad versus Justice League International. It's a great show. And that's going to do it for this time. Be sure to join us next month when we should be covering Checkmate number 9 and Suicide Squad 20. So, again, thanks for hanging with us. And until next month, squad mates, dismissed.
for listening to another great episode of Task Force X. I can also be found rambling on my main headcast of Head Speaks, where I rant and rave about movies, comics, geek stuff, and whatever is bugging me.
Mate, you just out-crazied the Joker.
Well, I tried, Boomer, but anyways, my home on the internet is at headspeaks.com. HEADSPEAKS.com. Links to my blog, which contain follow-up information to this and every headcast, can be found there. Both Task Force X and Headspeaks are on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and at headspeaks.com under Headcasts. Please feel free to email me any questions, comments, or concerns to taskforcex@headspeaks.com. And if you want to record a message, you can send it to me at taskforcex@headspeaks.com, and I'll play it on the air. I'm also on Facebook at Task Force X, and also on Google+, you can look for Task Force X under People and Pages. All titles and characters discussed are owned and copyrighted by DC Comics. I claim no ownership to the Suicide Squad, Checkmate, or Task Force X. I'm just a big fan wanting to spread the Task Force X love with everyone else. DC Comics can be found on the web at dccomics.com. Be sure to visit your local comic shop and look for Suicide Squad and Checkmate Comics. And while you're there, see what else they have that may interest you.
Mother.
Well, make sure you join us here next time for another fun-filled headcast from your friendly neighborhood Brotherhead. In the meantime, I'll see you in the funny pages.
Yippee!